welcome to this video. Today's video is going to be a video on study advice, and today I'll be talking about active recall and some techniques that you can use to help in your studying. If you are new here, hi, my name is Anna. I'm a fourth year psychology student and I make videos that are related to uni, studying, advice. If you're new here, then subscribe and like this video if you'd like to see more of these kind of videos. Okay, so what is active recall? You might have heard of it before, you might have not. In summary, it's actively remembering the information that you learn. So it involves active techniques to study. There are active and passive. Passive ones would be like rewriting your notes. And you're not actively engaging in the studying process. You're just writing, but your mind could be somewhere else. You could be listening to music, you could be, I don't know, paying attention to something else, and you're not really retaining that information. You're not actively engaged in the studying process. There's nothing wrong with those techniques if they work for you. I also rewrite my notes at times, or I did, and I would be doing something else. I'd be listening to music and I wasn't really focused. And there was nothing wrong with that because I wasn't really studying. I was just making notes. So it's fine to use that. However, if you want to remember the information that you're learning and you are studying for an exam, you're going to have to do something else if, for example, that hasn't been working for you. So I thought I would mention maybe 3 to 5 study tips that involve active recall. Some of these are things I've used myself and I would recommend them. So the first one would be pretty obvious. It's doing past papers. Now, I've talked about this so many times on here already, so you might have heard this before, but if you haven't, or if you're new, or if you've never heard of this before, then doing past papers, testing yourself, doing your own questions, which is what I did for my A-level psychology. I created my own questions, and then I would check them with the correct answers, and that way I'm testing myself, because sometimes when you've done every single past paper there is, or you don't have any past papers, like at university, that isn't really a thing, at least at my university. So I can't do that. So I create my own questions from the content that I'm learning, and I find it helpful. And then you can highlight the things that you are still struggling with and use other study techniques to focus on the things that you're struggling with. The next one is also another favorite of mine, and it is mind maps. This is perfect for visual learners. I'm also a visual learner, and I prefer colour and seeing things instead of writing. And so mind maps, they don't work for everything, but they do work quite a lot of the time. I know they did for A-level psychology. I'm sorry I keep referring back to that, but it's just, that's when I was at like my best with my studying. So mind maps, they really help, especially if something is complicated and you don't know how to understand it. You can like create it on a page so that you understand it yourself. It's okay if no one else understands it, as long as you understand it. And the mind maps can be colourful, they don't have to be, they can be bold, they can be small. Tailor it to you really and what works for you. Another technique that is one of my favourites is to pretend you are teaching a class or teaching someone else, or even you could teach someone else if you can find someone to teach. You can just pretend that you are teaching someone. Try to explain what you have just learned. Maybe study for half an hour, take a break, and then come back to it, but use active techniques such as this one where you are explaining it. So you are talking to yourself, explaining the topic, or whatever it is that you just studied in the best way that you can, and see if you understand it and see if you can explain it. Because if you can explain it but you don't understand it, that might not be very useful. So that's another technique. Another technique is paraphrasing. Now, if you do enjoy studying from a textbook and you do like rewriting things, then this is a technique that you can use to help you actively learn, still learning the way that you learn. So let's say you are rewriting things from the textbook, making notes from the textbook to study from. Try to write them in your own words or paraphrase them. It's kind of like explaining it to someone else in simpler terms. Try to rewrite it in your own way, because then you have to actively think of the thing that you are writing about. and see then if you are understanding what you're reading. Another technique for this one is to keep in mind, how would you explain this to a 5-year-old? This doesn't work with everything, or maybe it does. I don't know, I haven't tried this on everything. But try to see if you can, like, once you've studied it, like as an extra challenge for yourself, try to see if you can explain it to a 5-year-old. Or how would you explain it to a 5-year-old? Or maybe someone, or maybe a 10-year-old. The last piece of advice is kind of similar to what I said at the beginning, testing yourself, but using flashcards. Flashcards itself is a great study technique, but I've already mentioned that many times already on here. And I'm a #1 fan of Quizlet. But if you want to make it a little bit more interesting, you could write, because what I did was like put all the information on flashcard. I would make them like an artwork. I don't even know if I have them still, but I love them so much. It basically had all my notes on one page summarized. But if you don't want to do that, because that can be time consuming, you could just make like simple little small cards. You don't even have to get flashcards. It could be like half the size, the tiniest cards you can find, or you can even print them out. But put questions on them, questions relating to the topic that you're studying, questions that might be hard to answer. It can be like who, what, why, when, and where, or what. Those kind of questions, like short, snappy questions that you can test yourself really quickly even before the exam. So that'll be all the advice I have for today's video. Let me know any other study videos that you would like to see, or any topics you would like to see me mention, or maybe even advice that you would like to see videos on, like how to focus better. I do have some of those videos up on my channel already, but quite a few of them are quite old. So if you'd like to see more, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.